revelled in her anguish, he said, adding her punishment would be proportionate and considered. By hanging himself in his cell, many believe Ian Rannoch evaded justice. The public mood is now focused on ensuring his accomplice can't do the same. Patrick Placey, UK.
Oh, don't start crying. Crocodile tears are making me sick. There were no tears when you watched him do what he did. You filmed what he did. That's really good.
What up?
Can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, what's going on?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. I'm hungry.
Are you? Haven't had dinner yet?
No, I just had a salad so far.
Are you your place or are you Nikki's?
I'm at Nikki's.
That's why you're in a closet. Yeah, he's in the closet.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I've said about him for years.
He's still not.
He's still not.
Well, I did just get back from playing that transvestite hooker, so.
Oh, in the Hamptons. That's right. I was in the Hamptons.
Oh.
Do we say transvestite? Didn't Lorraine Cox just say something about not saying transvestite?
Honestly, Susanna, this was the biggest clusterfuck ever. And every time I'd say what I was playing as the demographic, I'm always like quotation marks around each word in the phrase. Because
You didn't know whether you were offending transvestites, hookers.
No, I was offending all of them just by playing it.
I was say it wasn't even you. It was somebody wrote it for you.
Oh, Jesus Christ! So it was.
I can't believe you ended up doing this.
I should have quit. It was miserable. It was as bad, Corey, as falsettos. Remember how that went?
I do remember that. But it was. Did you get paid for it though?
Yeah, $100.
And room and board in the Hamptons, or was it overnight?
Yeah, I was there for 3 days.
Oh, okay. Was that fun? Were the other people fun to work with?
Yeah, the other guy that was there was cool, and it was just I was just so in a state. But like we were on the street where I could go to like bars and stuff. So
oh, good. Well, then that's fun.
It's pretty. It's very pretty up there. But like the people that run this theater, it's literally a community theater for Alec Baldwin and Steven Spielberg and all these people. So.
Mm-hmm.
It's where they send their kids to do shows type stuff. Like they did,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Blythe Danner did a production of Cherry Orchard, I think, or something. So,
sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a laugh a minute. Anyway.
Well, are you ready for this mediocrity?
Yeah, I'm truly a mediocrity, and it celebrates mediocrity.
It does. Do you have an opening?
Oh yeah. So today we learn Schoolhouse rocks. Not. What do you have?
Today we learn it's just a matter of time before Jerry O'Connell shows up on this show.
Oh, that's good. All right, yeah, do that one. Here, I'll start it up and then you go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me just tweet.
So
and we're live. So Corey, whenever you're ready.
We'll start again, Brian. On this week's episode of Quality Time with Family Ties, we learn it's just a matter of time before Jerry O'Connell shows up on the show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Quality Time with Family Ties. I am your co-host, Paul Packler, and with me is...
Mr. Corey Pepper. I'm doing Scott Jones's voice now.
Oh, that was good. That was a great impersonation.
Mr. Corey Pepper. Scott probably spoke before us, though, don't you think?
Yeah. I'm really enjoying how tired he sounds over each week.
It's going to get worse.
Like,
his wife is tired. It's going to fall on his shoulders. And he's is he back at work, or is he taking time off from real work, from teaching?
I have no idea. I'm guessing he's teaching, too.
Oh, my God. He must be exhausted.
Yeah.
We're on season 4, episode 13 of Family Ties. The name of the episode is The Disciple, which oddly enough, I got to tell you, right when I saw the name was The Disciple, I dropped to my knees and prayed it wouldn't be as bad as the last couple of episodes.
And it wasn't. To be fair, it wasn't.
It wasn't. To be fair, it was not. But we're really grading on a curve by saying this is anything but mediocre, because this show tonight was almost the very definition of mediocre.
Yeah, it was. I mean, let's just start off from the top, because there's a lot of stuff to say about this episode.
I actually have a very fair amount of notes on this episode. There is a lot to say about this episode. We start in the... where are we? We're in the living room. Jennifer is sitting at the dining, what I would call the dining room table in the living room.
Sure.
She's working on an oral report for her social studies class. And of course, as we see in every episode, Skippy just barges in. This time, not the back door, but he barges in the front door.
Yeah.
And thank God he has his pet beret with him.
Well, that's the thing, Corey. I wrote down beret, and I circled it, and then I said, no. And it says it right here, no.
No.
That actually, it was one of those, like, communist train conductor hats that he had turned backwards for no discernible reason.
It was not a beret. Wait, when you say communist train, are you talking about something like what Tevye would wear in Fiddler on the Roof?
Absolutely, yeah. It's the type of hat I would wear.
Yes! In fact, I believe I've seen you in a hat very much like that.
Oh, absolutely. I think I bought it in California, so yeah.
That's so funny you say that. It's like, yeah, you would wear that.
Yeah.
But it was turned around, so it wasn't a beret, but it still looked it was like very jaunty on him.
Yeah.
And by the way, I wrote down at least once, I thought I wrote it down twice. Why is Skippy in the scene? There's absolutely no reason, unless there was a contractual thing where he had to get in so many episodes this season, because this was ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't think of any good reason other than if it were someone else, if it were Nick, if it were Ellen, there would be more reason to put her or him into the story. With Skippy, they can get out some exposition and then get him the hell out of there. It's
probably true. It's probably probably their cheapest exposition too.
Right.
We find out at this point about the Boswells in what would only be kindly called a B plot to this show, although the B plot meets up with the A plot unexpectedly towards the end.
I mean, this is so highfalutin, I'm surprised Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld didn't write this episode.
You mean with the weavings of the plots and all of a sudden you think the Boswells are only involved with Andrew, and then you find out, boom, at the very end, no, they're also sort of involved with Jennifer. But that was never mentioned.
No. It was seamless.
Very strange. So the Boswells apparently have a small child who's the same age as Andrew by the name of Timmy. And Elise cautions Stephen that the Boswells are coming over to go to, whatever, Mommy and Me class, playtime with the child class. And Stephen and Elise are going to meet up with the Boswells for their kid class. And she warns Stephen not to start an argument with Mr. Boswell.
Now, this is the confusing part, Corey, is that as she's saying this, the Boswell's car is pulling up into the driveway and they're honking the horn. Can Stephen and Elise not drive anymore? What?
Yeah, we can't meet. We can't meet down at the strip mall. We have to caravan. We have to go together. That's very strange. Mr. Boswell shows up, and it's character actor David Wall. You know David Wall?
Yeah, he was the boring beatnik that you guys were in love with back in the poetry reading episode.
Yes, another one of these. It's like Gary David Goldberg and his balding character actors, Bobby Costanzo and David Wall. I'm going to make sure both of them have SAG insurance if it's the last fucking thing I do.
Right. And he's as mediocre as ever. As I will say, like later when he is the voiceover of the psychiatrist in the My Name is Alex episode, the worst voiceover performance I've ever seen. And you'll see it when we get to that episode.
He's in that episode too? He's the voiceover in that episode? We have to look up if David Wall is from Brooklyn. Does he know Gary David Goldberg? Are they like brothers-in-law? Is there a family connection? Is there nepotism involved here?
Perhaps he saw Gary David Goldberg kill someone at some point.
Or maybe they're sucking each other's cocks.
That could be it too.
I mean, I think we skip over the obvious in show business, and I feel bad about that. It's like, oh, come on, they're just blowing each other. It's show business.
Fine, yeah, just give him a job. You're giving him one job for another.
After the Boswells and the Keatons take their small offspring over to Mommy and Me class, Mallory says she's going to be late for work. And, this is the Mallory and Skippy exchange. Mallory is going to be late for work, and she needs to change her clothes. And Skippy awkwardly asks her, hey, Mallory, you need any help changing your clothes? And Mallory starts to look like she's going to say no, and then she thinks, you know what? This will make for a better joke. I'll say, yeah, Skippy, I want you to come upstairs with me right now, and I want you to slowly take my clothes off and slowly put my work outfit on for me. And Skippy looks at her and runs the fuck out of the Keaton home.
But you know what, Corey? First of all, it was so awkward. The joke itself, the fact that they put that in there, made me very uncomfortable. But then the comedic timing of that bit that they're doing is so weird and slow. You nailed it. Like, your delivery just now is how it should have been.
It was very slow and very deliberate, and you saw where they were going. And it was long enough that I could consciously sit and think while they were doing it. And I was thinking, this has nothing to do with tonight's story. And they're wasting a good minute on a joke that's simply a character joke of, oh, we'll make Skippy here for a reason. That was the whole reason Skippy was there, for that joke.
Yeah, that might be it too. That was the best send-off that they could give him and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was a mess. And the other thing is that Alex comes down but no, he comes in. I'm sorry, Corey. He comes in from the kitchen. He had entered from the back of the house, and he has his jacket over his shoulder, and it looks like Michael J. Fox just walked onto the set. There's no character that he's playing at that moment. He just walks onto the set, and it's like, I don't know where he's coming from. They don't really explain. It's just so awkward, this moment.
It's really strange, and yet with keeping with this whole episode of, there's a whole bunch of very bizarre stuff in this one. And then we get really going with the A plot, which is Jennifer is doing this oral report for social studies. She hungers to get better grades. You know, I think what they basically want is for her to hunger to be more like Alex P. Keaton, educationally speaking. And she sort of begs Alex to help her with her oral report, which the subject matter is how do laws become bills?
The other way around.
How do bills become laws, right? How do bills become laws? So she wants to, Alex, please, Alex, help me. I want to be the best in my class. And Alex, of course, takes that moment to be the complete and total narcissist that he is. And he goes, what's in it for me?
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not sure, how does she appease him with that? Do you remember what she says?
She doesn't. Oh, that's the thing, Corey. It's like, once again, in this episode all about mediocrity, here's an example right here. It starts with the stakes not being high enough for Jennifer. She's like, I'm already good at social studies. I'm already good in my class. I just want to be a little bit better.
I'm the seventh best. I really just want to be the best.
Right. It's really pretty, like, I'm not going to tune into a show to see someone do moderately better.
Right. If they had raised the stakes completely, if it was, let's say it was Mallory who was having problems.
Yeah, or Jennifer's failing this course, you know.
Well, I'm failing the class, right, and I really need some help. It would have raised the stakes. That's something they do in the show very often, is they don't raise the stakes quite high enough.
Yeah. And it just cuts the legs out from under the story, because then you have no reason to want to care.
Well, and what they do, I think, because of that, the yin and the yang of this, is they turn Alex into a character. They sort of turn him into the drill sergeant from Officer and a Gentleman or Full Metal Jacket. You know, he's R. Lee Army.
Yeah,
you know?
And he starts calling her by her last name and all that
right.
kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And it becomes unbelievably predictable, even though Michael J. Fox is quite competent doing the comedy, and we've always said that Tina Yothers is just fine. I don't blame the actors on this. Once again, it's lazy writing where they just go for the easiest joke and not much of a joke.
Corey, that's the other thing, not much of a joke, is that there's not much of that established relationship. Like, we barely see him coaching her or helping her with her project besides giving her some big books. But beyond that, there's no real, like, There's no like Henry Higgins, Eliza Doolittle, anything.
That was the other thing. Just recently, we had a Henry Higgins episode too that they missed the boat on, and I feel like that this was another Henry Higgins episode that they missed the boat on. By the way, what you just said is really funny. Other than big books, I wrote big books down 3 times. Clearly, whoever wrote this episode, whoever designed the episode, thought there's no jokes in the episode. We'll give them really big books.
Yeah.
Books are funny.
Yeah, the set designer. When all your comedy comes from set design, you're in trouble.
They've done this before, where they go with a set design joke because they know there's no jokes in the script. In fact, that's the very first thing I wrote in this next scene. We go to the living room later on, and I wrote down, obviously, big books are funny. Because that's all that's lying on the table. And when we say, for those of you who may not have seen this episode, we're not talking about, you know, the Oxford Unabridged Dictionary in your school library? That's the size of the books. And it's not one. It's not just a dictionary. It's stacks. It's like 3 stacks of 3 books each, about 9 to 12 books. All big, nothing small.
No. And it just makes no sense. Like, I get it. Like, you're going to give her, like, it just, there's no logic in this episode where it's like, okay, the girl's in 7th grade. She's reading some shitty textbook, and Alex is like, we can do better than this. And so that he brings in these big books, but it's like, ultimately, it's the 7th grade social studies class. You don't need the most comprehensive anything. You just need a couple books of like better information than a textbook, but they don't explain why or what. And then I'm getting ahead of ourselves.
Because they're going to try and rationalize all of this in the last scene of the episode with Alex and Jennifer. But what you're saying at the beginning is very true. In fact, I think they even addressed this at the end, and I still think it's a far stretch when we realize that part of her wants to be like Alex. It's not because it gets very complicated. She's nominated. There's apparently an award at their high school, the Thomas Dewey Award for History, and it goes to the person who does the best social studies project, the most comprehensive social studies project. And of course, the joke is Jennifer goes, "Oh, who cares about the Thomas E. Dewey Award? Only nerds win that." I won it 3 times.
Yep. And she would have known that. B, right. Once again, you're lowering the stakes because of a cheap joke about Alex, where it's like, that's what her goal should have been, was to get.
Right. Every year I keep on thinking maybe this is my year to be nominated for the Dewey Award. It has nothing to do with Alex.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If that, like what you were just talking about, Corey, that we will get to later at the end of the episode, Alex, she apparently now wants to be Alex. Well, here's your great example of a way that she wants to be like Alex, is to win the award that he won. Right.
As opposed to she doesn't really give a shit about it, which is what she sort of says, and I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And then the family comes in, and, I made a big decision. I'm speaking unilaterally. For all of the people and you and Scott, we've been monitoring the use of orange juice in the show. We've been monitoring the use of certain sets in the show, like Guido's and the hall set. And now we're officially going to start monitoring the use of bathrobes in this show.
Oh!
They made a decision, clearly, this is the third episode in a row, or 3 of the last 4, in which they purchased bathrobes for these characters for some episode. And God damn it, we're going to use those robes in every show.
Now, Corey, why do you think, because we've delved into orange juice and the hallway, what do you think is the significance of these why bathrobes of all things?
Well, because it's a modest family and we don't show our body parts. It covers a whole multitude of sins. Mostly, I've always been aware of this. Are you ever aware? I'm exposing myself like a fucking onion on this podcast.
Get you a bathrobe then.
I'm gonna say something. That's just humiliating to me.
I love this. This is great.
But, Doctor, it's about women have a tendency to take off their bras as the evening goes on.
Of course.
And I have yet to know a woman in my whole life who sleeps with their bra on. And I think robes cover up that awkwardness of, is Elise really going to sleep with her bra on? I mean, she's nursing, she's wearing a bra, it's not real. So let's just, if we put the robe on, we really can't see whether their breasts are bridled or unbridled. So that's why I think they slap the robes on them, because it covers up that, we don't want her to go bra, she's uncomfortable going braless, and it's the only realistic thing.
You know what, too, Corey? Also, I think that it's a similar idea, but just it's a way to signify that it's late at night.
It does, because there's very few windows in this house.
No, exactly. There's no windows. There's no real, unless you're like in the kitchen, you see the daylight of that back wall where the laundry room is.
Right.
You can't tell. This is a great way to signify that everyone is tired and it's nighttime. And like you're saying, like in the real world, you would see boobs flapping. And
right. And that's not going to happen. We're not going to do that to Justine Bateman.
Right.
As
exactly.
they wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's very interesting, the robe thing, and how often they've been using it only lately.
And this scene really doesn't go anywhere else. Towards the end of the scene, they go back to that silly little B-ish plot of really little Timmy Boswell versus Andrew, that there's a competition set up between Timmy and Andrew, and they're very competitive.
But Corey, the crazy thing is that they're both 1 year old. Like, this is the first time they've said that Andrew is a year old.
Well, maybe they figured that since we made Stephen competitive with the Jay Tarsus character and Stephen competitive with his father, that he's passed the competitive gene onto Andrew, and now Andrew is competitive with Timmy Boswell.
But you know what, Corey? They have that joke that they make about Stephen saying that Timmy was playing backgammon and he beat him 2 games out of 3. So, like, Stephen is now competing with a baby. Like, he's gone through 3 different generations. 4! Because he's gone against Alex, he's gone against Jay Tarsus, his own father, and now an infant.
Timmy Boswell. Timmy Boswell's been kicking the shit out of Stephen. I thought that was sort of a dumb joke, too. I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. I don't know why.
It was too unrealistic.
I guess that's what it was. Is another one of those. I was like, these are real people, and you're giving them sort of. Stephen's not a dumb guy. How did a 1-year-old beat him at backgammon? And he didn't even make it. He could have made it self-deprecating or like he was joking. So the next scene, we go to school. We're at school. I'm trying to figure out why I wrote that down. There's something I wrote down.
We're in Jennifer's classroom where this blonde girl is giving a speech about how the presidential election works. And this is where the episode gets a little bit interesting, guys. And it's this actress's name is Amy O'Neill, and I think most people would probably know her from other things too, but from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. She played the oldest sister, the daughter of Rick Moranis, that got shrunk down. So that's who that is. Were you going to say something about her, Corey?
Now I know what I had written down. She was actually defining something, how prescient for the year that we're in, she was explaining the Electoral College, which has changed one bit in 240 years. So she was explaining something that I recently was explaining to some other people who are not from America when they were talking about national polls and how I think national polls are ridiculous because we don't have a national election. Every poll is a popular vote, and we just don't happen to have a popular vote. It could be very close popularly, and she can, and it's possible for one candidate to kick the other one's ass electorally, or vice versa. Yeah,
look at 2000. There you go.
Al Gore won the popular vote, and he never became president. So there we show the, and it's. I don't believe Mr. Trump understands the Electoral College. I think he's going to have problems with that on November 8th.
I think he only understands a couple things, Corey.
And one of them is grabbing genitalia.
Sure.
And the other one is me.
Yeah. That's
me.
It. That's it.
Me. Wrong. Me. It's like it's the basic instinct of every infant and old person.
Wow. Me. Yeah. He just kept it going all the way through.
Exactly. It's only a few very special people get to do that from infancy to old age. Is just think it all revolves around them.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about Jennifer's sweater.
You know what? I barely was paying attention to it. What did it look like?
That's very funny. There's actually a moment in the second act that I wrote down. I stopped watching. You'll have to help me, Paul. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But I love it when you just said to me, I was hardly watching. She was wearing, I believe there were ghosts on her sweater. It was like a Halloween sweater.
Oh, weird. And this is January that this episode came out.
The show was airing in January. It was just weird. I just didn't understand the sweater choice.
Yeah.
And then, so the teacher, Mrs. Pedroza, is that her name? Pedroza, yeah. Mrs. Pedroza invites Alex, engages Alex in conversation. So I felt that Alex was doing his best Nick imitation.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's absolutely it. Yeah.
I thought, okay, dumb guy, Nick. And so he sort of makes it seem, now, it's fine here, but you know where I'm going. In the second act, Mrs. Pedroza has a line that I believe reached heights of offensiveness that the show rarely goes to. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, this episode, all the good stuff is coming at the end. All of the
it is. Stick with us. But she sets this up right now by sort of treating Alex like he's simple, is the best way I could say.
Yeah.
So she sort of Alex sort of plays that he's really dumb compared to Jennifer. And so he says, I work at the quarry, to Mrs. Pedroza. And then Alex looks like he's helping Jennifer set some stuff up. And then Mrs. Pedroza says, well, why don't you stay and watch your sister's act? You know, watch her do it. And then he, somehow or another, there's a seat dead center stage ready for Alex. Yeah. In a completely filled classroom, one seat center stage. And then there seems to be special effects like music coming from nowhere. Did you notice? It's like, why couldn't they have given Alex a boombox to have pulled out like a boombox from his coat and pressed a button like this was all planned, that Alex was still the stage manager of this act? Instead, there's this like My Country 'Tis of Thee comes up and we sort of fade into the end of the act.
Yeah, once again, in another stunning case of mediocrity of coming up with a bit, all they do is they sort of do what you're talking about, Corey, but he just pulls out a flashlight to be a spotlight for her. But it would have been so much funnier if they did what you're saying, is that not only did he have the flashlight, but he had a boombox. And it turns out that, like, this was all part of his plan, was that he wanted to sit there. So
right, exactly. And then her inviting him, there should have been some reason for him to stay, or something that made him need to stay, and that she then politely invited. Everything could have been a lot more organic in the scene. And instead, we saw Jennifer's oral report, which wasn't particularly interesting nor funny.
No.
Even with whatever effects, they should have expanded it and heightened it. Alex should have been throwing confetti, pressing buttons, sound effects. There should have, we get that one shot of Alex knowing Jennifer's lines and him mouthing the lines back to her.
Honestly, I feel like if you're listening to this episode, if you're watching this episode, you should really just go watch the music video for Schoolhouse Rock's I'm Just a Bill. Like, it holds up over 45 years. And I don't know, it's like Family Ties if they had written a parrot sketch. If they were like, no, we're going to do our version of a Monty Python sketch that's a classic, beloved thing, and we're going to see if we can do it better.
We're at commercials, so do you want to take one?
Yeah, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. The other thing about Jennifer's speech is that as they're going into commercial and everything like that, she gets a standing ovation because, like, the actual information of what she's talking about is well researched, and talking about vetoes and the 2/3 and how you have to pass both the bicameral and then all this stuff. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe that Gary David Goldberg actually did research.
I know.
For this topic.
That was good. I'm glad that they explained that. I thought it was like, okay, that really hasn't changed either. It made sense.
Right.
So we're in the kitchen with Alex, and he's sort of reliving this whole experience that, and then everybody in the family sort of takes credit for helping Jennifer achieve this great report that she did.
It's so shitty, Corey, because, like, Alex helped her, and then Elise immediately is like, well, when I was 12, I had a cookie bake demonstration. And then Stephen's like, well, when I was 12, I had a speech at the potluck dinner for the bowlers of America. And it's like, hey, assholes, your son is the one that helped her.
I was like, you're trying to one-up your children? That's sort of small-minded.
Yeah.
That's very non-parenty. It's like, this couldn't have been written by a parent. Parents don't one-up, you know what, kid? You did very well. But when I was a child, once again, it's like Donald Trump.
Yeah, yeah.
I did better than you. But thankfully, Alex does whip out the glass of orange juice and the pitcher of orange juice early in the scene, which sort of takes the edge off of it for me and made me feel better.
Yeah, it brought everything home again. It's been a long time since we've seen orange juice in this show so far.
Yeah, and now Jennifer's there, and she's just sad. She's sad and she's frustrated because she didn't even understand her own report, according to her.
Well, who fucking cares, Jennifer?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Who cares? And then Mrs. Pedrosa shows up. It's dark outside, so I don't know why she's showing up at like 7 o'clock at night at a family's home, at one of our students' homes. If one of my child's teachers showed up at my home unannounced without a phone call, I'd call 911.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so funny because she just comes to say that she's going to nominate her for the Dewey. Not that she got it, nothing. It's just like, oh, hey, I was thinking about you while I was home alone in my studio apartment, and I just came over to tell you that I like you.
And it's on Friday.
Oh, what is it?
The Dewey Award is this Friday. It's like it's Wednesday, but the award's Friday. And you just did the report yesterday. But we didn't actually clarify that when we defined what the Dewey Award was. The whole time frame, it's just everything sucks. And then Mrs. Pedrosa asks Alex how things are going at the quarry. And he answers, and then she has a question for him. And she asks him the question like he is either deaf or retarded.
Yeah.
And it was offensive on every level. And while indeed Alex was playing it like he was, well, I'm not going to say, I said before simpleton, and I want to take it back. He was playing it like he was a blue-collar worker, is what he was. No more than that. He wasn't trying to play as though there was a traumatic brain injury of some sort. And she really did say that line to him like she had an understanding that there was some sort of a brain injury.
It was really weird because there was no precursor to it. Like the whole time he was only as dumb as Nick.
No.
Like
absolutely. And the whole time she was conversing with him and everything was fine. There was no, I don't understand this word. There was none of that. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she's talking like this, Paul, right?
Yeah. And I was just sitting there shocked. I didn't know what to say.
Either. I was like,
you know what, Corey? To rewind for a second, I honestly think it would have been so much funnier if, like you're saying, Michael J. Fox should have just done an impersonation of Scott Valentine's Nick. That would have been hilarious.
It would have been funny, and then take a shot of like Mallory listening to it, or Stephen and Elise recognizing that it's Nick.
Yeah.
Actually, it would have been funnier even if, instead of it being Skippy in the scene before, it could have been Nick in the scene earlier in that first scene that could have said something that Alex could have echoed later on and then echoed a third time. So we could have actually had a through line of him. He's trying to perfect his Nick imitation. Where it could have worked. I don't know. The whole thing was just, it was that line was so offensive. And it took a lot to offend me.
Yeah.
So we cut to the actual Dewey Award ceremony, and as only they can do on Family Ties, they give us yet a second cast member of Stand By Me in a cameo role. We go from a few weeks ago. It was River Phoenix, and it was the late great River Phoenix, and unfortunately, the very alive Corey Feldman shows up in this one.
But you know what? I feel really bad for Corey Feldman. Like in hearing his story where he talks to Howard Stern, or like he talks about his relationship with Corey Haim and stuff like that. That kid lived a life.
Yeah. That's a good kid.
Yeah, it made me sad because, like, in this episode, he's fine. He's good.
Yeah, he's just fine.
Like, they give him nothing to do. He's just doing the most dry, like, SVU
Yes.
terminology about science up on stage. And you wouldn't even know that he would become a famous actor because he's doing so little here.
Mm-hmm. And then the scene goes from, and by the way, his role was completely superfluous and could have been cut. He was lucky that it ended up in the actual episode. I don't think there was a real reason for him to be there. We never really referred to his character again.
No. You know what, Corey? It just made me think of something. He is the third actor that we've had from Goonies.
Who were the other two that we've had from Goonies?
Martha Plimpton.
Right.
And the kid that played Chunk.
Oh, that's right. We've had 3 Goonies and 2 Stand By Me's.
Yeah.
Wow, there's got to be a connection
And
somewhere.
a partridge family in a pear tree.
Yes, well, soon. This is so we see at this point. This is when they slap us in the face with the surprise. The Boswells are there. Apparently, they have a 12-year-old as well as having an infant. Who'd have thunk? Who'd have thunk that was possible that they would have somebody competing with Jennifer as well as someone competing with Andrew?
Wait a second. Was Corey Feldman supposed to be their son?
Wait a minute. No, I don't think so. Am I misspeaking? Why are they there then? Are they there because of a child?
I don't know. It totally baffled me.
Stephen invited because this was the way Stephen was going to show Mr. Boswell how successful his daughter was. I think that was just a whole. They didn't have a child. I think Stephen just wanted him to come so he could, in your face, my girl won the Dewey Award.
That's amazing. Okay, that makes more sense.
And here's why I'm so confused, because my next note says, this is where I stopped watching. You're going to have to help me here, Paul.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I'm good. I have some notes here. What did you leave off at?
The Boswells show up, and then the next thing I have is, sorry, Alex, I let you down, which I believe is the last line of the scene.
Okay, so what happens is Jennifer's about to go on stage to do her speech, and they're introducing her, and Alex's head is peeking out like Guy Smiley on Sesame Street, and he's waiting for her to get up on stage. And so she says to him, Alex, I don't know anything that you wrote. I don't understand the stuff that we're doing. I'm nervous and all this sort of a thing. She gets up and then starts saying, hi, everybody, I'm here. And she starts doing her Friends, Romans, Countrymen that she does, that Alex wrote. But then she immediately stops and is like, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. And then Alex is like, what the fuck are you doing? Just say something. And then she starts up again. Then she stops. And then he's like, well, show them the U.S. Capitol that I made. It took me 18 hours to make it. She pulls the thing off so that people can see it. And then all of a sudden, the Boswells stand up and start asking questions of Jennifer for no reason, except to make her look like an asshole.
I mean, how many rooms, how many bathrooms were in the Capitol? What are they asking? Like questions about the Capitol, or questions about bills becoming laws? And
yeah, well, actually, what's his name asks about a 2-part question about Marbury versus Madison, the Supreme Court case that established judicial review of congressional laws. And I'm like, oh my God, everything's falling apart.
Wow. So I stopped watching. I knew there was a reason I stopped watching. It just stopped making sense. Why were the Boswells there? Why are they asking questions? What does this have to do with anything that we've seen? What does that have to do with Timmy Boswell and Andrew? It has nothing to do with anything.
No. And they also say when they first sit down that Timmy has sung his first song and it's from Aida.
Yes.
And so ultimately, David Wall gets up and asks the Marbury versus Madison question. Then the wife gets up and starts asking that they didn't answer correctly. Then Alex comes out on stage and starts talking about Marbury versus Madison. And then that reveals that he's not dumb to the teacher. And then Jennifer runs out the door. And then that's the end of this mess.
I just had a flash of, can you imagine the writing staff freezing this script and thinking to themselves, going out for a drink over to, the smokehouse or wherever the hell they went, and thought, we did a good job. We rescued this one. We saved this one. It's like, now 30 years later, guys, this is an abortion. This is just...
Yeah, this is nothing. This is a nothing episode where nothing works.
I mean, the last couple of episodes, we said there was no story. They sort of gave us a story in this one. I just don't care. Nothing works. It's just terrible.
No.
So,
and that's the perennial question, Corey. Do you think that they were happy with how this episode went?
Yes.
or any of these episodes. Do you think that they're like they did what you're saying? Because I look at this thinking like this is something that a person writes when they're first starting out.
This is a fourth season. The show's already this is a big hit. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just a bad script. Is it hot where you are? Are you in heat tonight?
I'm a little hot. It's like in the 60s or 70s right now.
Oh, but it's the closet then. There's no ventilation in your closet.
That too. That's also the problem.
We cut from this scene, from this giant, chaotic, farcical, ridiculous ending of the scene to the kitchen. And once again, we're all the big books are now in the kitchen. Got to use those big books again.
Now, so this is where the wheels just come off, and let's just start talking about this discussion.
Yep.
Jennifer is pissed at Alex.
Mm-hmm. You're going to try and